Hey, what is up guys? My name is Oleg, this is Bond. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel and like the content, please do subscribe so you won't miss any of the upcoming videos. Plus you'll be joining a pretty awesome community of people. In today's video, I'm going to do a full review of Phoibos PY007C. It's a fantastic watch based on specs. You have the 300 meters of water resistance, ceramic lumed bezel, sapphire crystal with AR coating, high beat Miyota 9015 movement. So just looking at the paper, the specs are fantastic and the price of only $300 make it seem like a very attractive deal. So is it all specs or is it actually a good watch? Well, let's get into it. Phoibos PY007C. Let's start this review as always by looking at the basic dimensions. We have a diameter of 40 millimeters, excluding the crown guards, a lug to lug width of 47 millimeters, a lug width of 20 millimeters, the tapers down to 18 by the clasp, and the thickness a hair over 13 millimeters. The case dimensions and the design of this watch, of course, very heavily inspired by a Rolex Submariner, one of the most popular diver watches out there. However, I would call this an homage and not an exact copy. I think this iteration of Phoibos, this is their newest and most updated model, pays more of an homage to the Submariner instead of being a blunt copy. So let me go over some of the changes between this and previous iterations. First of all, the logo. By 12 o'clock, we just have the octopus instead of having Phoibos written out. I think that's a good change. The Phoibos, it looked good, but it didn't have enough of a distinct look to it. It looked too much like a Rolex copy. Second of all, they got rid of the Cyclops by the date, 3 o'clock position. I think that's a great change. A lot of Submariner homage watches or copies don't do that part really well. The magnifier doesn't magnify enough, or it's misaligned, or just looks out of place. Getting rid of it was the correct call. The third big change is actually lume on the bezel. So you can see that the font is a little bit thicker, the writing is a bit thicker because this is a ceramic bezel that's fully lumed. So all these light up in the dark, and I'll give you a lume shot in a couple of minutes or so. So those were the changes between this and previous Phoibos models. But this watch here is so much more than just a Rolex Submariner homage. For $300, you're actually getting a really decent watch. You have a stainless steel case with a stainless steel bracelet. The finishing on the case and the bracelet are done really well. We have the polished on the side and brushed on the top. The transitions, the rounding off of the case, the brushing, everything is done really well. We also have the ceramic bezel, 120 click unidirectional. As I mentioned, it is fully lumed. I love the ceramic bezel because in different lighting conditions, it plays with the light really well. And sometimes it looks almost gray, sometimes it looks deep black, depending on the lighting condition. Really nice touch. However, there are a couple of negatives, a couple of QC issues with this bezel that I noticed. The first one is the fact that there's no lume pip, and that's on purpose. However, it looks almost as if the lume pip is missing. So I think they just filled in the indent where the lume pip was supposed to go, but I think they could have done a better job with that. It's not a huge deal, but it is definitely something that I noticed. The second thing is the fact that the bezel is fairly difficult to turn. So turning the bezel action is pretty good. There's not much backplay, but this first portion of the dial is pretty difficult to turn. Once we get to about here, the bezel becomes much easier to turn. You can even hear it in the clicks. Then once we get to about here, again, it's hard to turn. So a bit of QC issues. I'm not actually sure what causes this problem, what causes this issue. Let me know in the comment section below what I can do to maybe fix mine, and if you've had the same problem. The positive on the bezel is the fact that it aligns properly. I know it's a small thing to point out, but I'm tired of seeing so many diver watches that can't get this part right. The dial is done really well. It's a deep black dial. Again, in different lighting conditions, it plays with the light really well, especially with that sapphire flat crystal with the AR coating. That combination with the ceramic bezel and the deep black dial makes this watch look really cool in different lighting conditions. Again, I do like the change with the octopus logo. I do like the fact that they got rid of the Cyclops by the 3 o'clock position, and I even like the little details with the date window frame. I know it's a small detail, but those small details do add up. All applied indices for our markings. Let me pop a lume shot on the screen right now. Yeah, the lume is great, it's bright, and it lasts for a long time. Evenly applied, no complaints there. So this watch has 300 meters of water resistance, largely due to the fact that it has the screw down crown, also has a screw down case back. Case back is stainless steel, has a nice etching of a Phoibos logo, the octopus on the back. Really well done. It feels good even when I run my fingers through it. The crown is by the 3 o'clock position. It is sign crowned with the octopus logo, and the crown guards reminiscent of Rolex Submariner. Operating this crown is really easy, and it's actually one of the big positives for this watch. A lot of micro brands can't get this part right. Now this watch is powered by Miyota 9015 movement, hacking, hand winding, 42 hours power reserve. It is a high beat movement, 28,800 beats per hour, and 24 joules. Fantastic movement in my opinion. This is the best movement you can get in a watch for around $300. Something that I don't enjoy about this watch is actually this bracelet. So let me go over some of the positives of the bracelet before I go into the negatives. So the positives are, first of all, this clasp. I really like this engineered fold over clasp. It's done well, it feels solid, feels secure, has the 2 pushers for the release mechanism, and has this guard over the top. So when it's on the wrist, it feels good, and I also like this design of clasps. I also like the fact that the bracelet has solid end links. The finish on the bracelet is done really well too. We have polished on the side and brushed on the top to match the finishing on the case. However, the bracelet is not perfect. In fact, there are some things that drive me crazy about this bracelet. First one is not a huge deal, is this protruding lug. So a lot of Rolex Submariner homages have that, and this watch is no exception. It doesn't look very nice. You can see from this angle here how this link looks. I wish they curved it in more, or just had this as a normal link so it doesn't have this effect. Not something that I enjoy, and also makes the watch much wider. So if you have a smaller size wrist, it might even go past your wrist. The second thing about this watch that is a bigger deal to me and that drives me crazy is how inflexible this bracelet is. I think they've done it on purpose. So this portion here is fairly flexible, and just like a lot of other normal bracelets in watches. However, this portion by the top is super inflexible. This is the farthest it's gonna bend backwards. And same thing on this side. So when you lay the watch flat on the table, you can see it looks awkward. It just doesn't feel right. And if you lay it this way, it makes like a little pyramid. It doesn't make a huge difference on the wrist, to be honest, but it's something that I noticed. Just compare this bracelet to a bracelet on an Orient Mako 2. Now this is not a fantastic bracelet, but at least it can bend this way. So when you lay the watch on the table, it looks normal, doesn't create a weird pyramid. So what are my final thoughts on this watch? Well, in my opinion, this is actually a really, really nice watch for the money. For around $300, you're getting a great design. It's not a complete copy, a complete rip-off of Rolex Submariner, so it has a bit of its own character. It also has fantastic finishes, fantastic specs. The movement is great. Mine is running plus 5 seconds per day. Definitely cannot complain about that. It's a high beat movement, so there's a lot to like. As I mentioned, there are some quality control issues, the bezel being a bit stiff, and in certain parts being more stiff than in other parts. Not evenly applied lume in this triangle on the bezel, and the showing of missing lume pip. The bracelet being inflexible, and this protruding lug. Other than that, the watch is great. But is it better than this watch here? That's the bezel Marine Diver. Well, I'm gonna spend a little bit more time with the Phoibos before I do this comparison, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss it. And finally, here's what the watch looks like on my 7¼ inch wrist. It looks good, feels great, has really good weight to it, feels solid and secure. Really nothing to complain about here. Alright guys, so that was the full review for Phoibos PY007C. Once again, thank you Phoibos for sending this watch my way. I really do enjoy the watch. There are some shortcomings as I mentioned in the review, but overall a very solid offering and a good homage that is not an exact copy of Rolex Submariner. I appreciate you watching until the end. Please leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this Phoibos, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. By the way, today on my wrist I'm wearing a vintage Seiko 1970s chronograph. I bought this one recently, still haven't done the review, but I did do an unboxing. That video can be found on the channel. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.